Hello there, everyone. How are you doing today? So glad to be here, back live and in action. Yes, I hope all has been going well. It's been a challenging few weeks. So I want you to know I'm thinking of all of you, and I really hope that everyone is taking some time to just breathe. Always a good recommendation as we move forward in this thing we call life and all of the challenges that come along with it. So, if you are joining me for the first time, my name is Patricia Hayes. I am an executive advisor, career empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. And that means I love working with people, particularly women, who are in search of achieving their next level in their profession, in their career, but maybe getting a little stuck. Maybe not utilizing all of their resources to the best of their ability, and just maybe having a tough time with the transition. And I come in to help them be the other brain to work their way through those issues, those things, and come out on the other side much more empowered, much more confident, and ready to go. So, that said, here I am today. So glad to be here once again, like I said, and deciding to reach back. Y'all know I like to call it my video vault. Well, I am pulling back some content that has not been seen in quite some time. So, you're going to get exposed to basically new content but from an old me and an update, right? There we go. And I'm excited about this because when I go back and I look, this is a quick lesson, even for yourself, regardless of who you are. When you go back and take a look over things that you've done, things you've engaged in, some of it you're like feeling like a little deja vu, right? And a lot of times that's because it is. And it's not because you're just repeating the next something that you've done before, but because you're doing it at a new level. And that's a whole other conversation all on its own. But my recommendation to you is to not ignore it, but to rather go sit, take a little reflection time, and dig a little deeper on it and see what comes up. And all that to say is that I am doing just that and looking at some work that I've done over the years and saying, gosh, it's time to bring this stuff to the forefront again. It's timely, it matters. And we're starting that off with a new series, or a revived series, I will say, for the beginning of this summer, probably 5 or 6 weeks. So it's going to be about half the time. And we are going to call this one the Professional Women's Common Career Issues series. And when it was first begun, it really focused on three large areas, but ended up being a lot of content. So it was something that was done over the course of 3 days that we're going to spread out over six because we're going to do it in our coffee chats. Okay. And we're going to talk about, that career, that ultimate issue of I've got this thinking degree. What does it matter? Is it working for me? Regular degree, advanced degree, whatever. And we're going to talk about why it does matter and what to address first, the whole mindset issues behind all of that before we get into the strategies about repositioning yourself so that it can matter more for you. So that's this week and next week. Then we're going to follow up with conversation about negotiating your worth. Here's the thing, even in today's society where things have, come forward so much, women are still not paid at the same rate as men in most aspects of their career, and don't know how to negotiate that, don't know how to position themselves to ask for what they're worth when it comes to their salary, when it comes to their resources or whatever. So we're going to spend a couple of weeks there talking about that. And then we're going to close out with kind of a hodgepodge, but they all relate to transitions, whether they're tough transitions in the middle beginning, middle, end of your career, as well as, layoffs and retirement and, even firings, like all of the things that come around that. And we're going to spend there. And so that's what we're going to spend our time talking about over the course of the next few weeks. I think it's good and appropriate, over the course of the summer. When people, literally, the summer is about transition, right? A lot of times people are trying to get a fresh start, to get a little bit of rest. It's a good time to do some reflection and do a little, more than a little, internal work. So this is my contribution to helping you do that, particularly if you are in the midst of considering a transition of some sort in your career, in your profession, in your business. Okay. So I look forward to sharing this with you. Hope that you will jump in at any time, drop some questions. I'll be happy to respond to them, incorporate them into the next sessions if that's something we can do, and we'll see where it goes, right? Because the point is for this all to be beneficial to people in real time. Before we get started down that path, I do want to make sure that people know, and I'll be dropping a link and look for it in our content, is that another great aspect for transition during these summer months, that will hopefully carry forward, is a new offering that is called Empowered to Go. And basically, it came about because I have some fantastic women that I love to work with who came to me with two basic issues. Number one, budget. Number two, time. And when it came down to those two things, one and or both kept them from coming and working with me in full capacity on a one-on-one basis. And I wanted to be able to address that. So what I did was to create a package that addresses the budget issue by making it extremely affordable, but also addresses your issue of time and how much commitment you can make to a coaching service right now. And that said, that being affordable does not mean cheap. I don't do anything cheap, right? So you're still getting the goods, you're getting high quality, and you're getting access to me once a month with a group coaching hour and office hours. You're getting direct access via a private podcast, and you are getting some weekly or bi-weekly newsletters with some consolidated articles and interest and books of interest, so that you don't have to go dig this stuff up for yourself. I'm already doing it, and I'm going to share that with you so that you can be engaged. You can still move forward with your career transitions and things while you figure out what you're going to do next, and where you can get to the point where you can come work with me one-on-one. So that is just like a very, very high level. There's so much more embedded in that, and it is, like I said, at an incredibly affordable rate. Happy to share more of that information with you. Look for it on the Linktree link in my bio, and or just hit me up in the DMs. And I'm looking forward to doing that work with so many of you over the course of the next few months. Okay, so here we are. We are starting this series, and the first part of it is, does this degree, advanced degree, matter? And this question that comes up. Now, when this was first done, this literally was something that I was getting questioned about a lot. Particularly people who had invested not just in earning their bachelor's degree, but let's say they had gone on and, gotten an advanced degree, a master's, an MBA, a law degree, whatever it is. Okay. And, those things take time. They take extra time. They take extra money. And when you've been engaged, it doesn't matter whether you're 5 years into your career or 15 or 20, there can become this point in time where you are looking at, whether some of this stuff even matters. Is it working? What's going on? So we're going to talk a little bit about that, because the reality is that, yes, the degree matters, but the real issue is about what is your mindset in addressing the issues that come up before you. So what does it normally look like when this issue comes up? What it normally looks like is this. Someone is in a position where they feel that they are not being fully utilized, or in one where they feel like they are being overlooked, a little different than fully utilized, but overlooked, taken for granted, those types of things. And or you're bored and you're just like, what's next, right? What is next? What am I doing and why am I doing it? And all of those situations come back to you addressing issues internally, not just externally, right? Because it's external situations that'll bring about these questions. We'll go through a few examples here between myself and clients that I've worked with. But it ultimately all comes back to, what is it you're going to do? What is it that you're really thinking, and how are you going to approach dealing with it? Because the reality is, I don't care where you are in your career, if you haven't done it yet, you will eventually hit a wall. It's a part of the growth process. Okay. You could be cruising right along, having a fantastic time or moment, and then something hits out of the blue, seemingly. And it happens. So this is the thing I want to make sure to remind us all. Like, this is the real deal. It happens every day. You are not alone. Like, you are unique and wonderful, but you are not unique when it comes to hitting a career wall, having to do some evaluation and do a reset on where you stand with your current position, where you're going in your business, whatever it may be. Okay. So a lot of times, here's what the situation looks like. I will use myself as an example. Some years ago, and this is while I was working for myself. So it wasn't in one of my full-time, gigs from way back when. This is me being out on my own, doing a lot of expert work, doing a lot of policy work, and where my background in policy matters was being utilized for some teamwork. And in this particular situation, I was recruited for this, right? Because of the background I had in education, because of my policy background and my expertise, and even the fact that I had a law degree. I wasn't doing legal work. However, it added to this team being able to, up the ante on what they had to offer in order to get this federal contract. So I'm also part of this team, and we're cruising right along. I'm super excited. It's something new for me in terms of shifting and modifying my expertise and upgrading it and coupling it so that I was even becoming more of a subject matter expertise in the area from an educational standpoint. And it got really interesting. Needless to say, there were lots, lots of moving parts going on with that project. And in the midst of it, it got pretty difficult, where I was being managed by someone who did not have the expertise in the subject matter area, not just of myself, but of several of the other people that I was working with. But we were being questioned about our approach and what we were doing, as well as being told to do some things that were counter to the very expertise that you asked us to bring us in for, right? So, for example, we had a fabulous researcher, real gung-ho young woman who was just fantastic and being challenged on every front. The work and the things that I was bringing to the table being challenged. And all of these things just got really frustrating. And it starts eating at you, right? It starts making you question yourself, question your abilities. Why are you doing this? And needless to say, without getting into details, it did get pretty nasty. Now, I survived the first round of cuts, right? There was this cut. There were some new people being brought on. Okay, fine. Going along because I really felt strongly about getting this experience and adding it to my resume and my repertoire, right? It was a choice that I made. Needless to say, It got better for a little bit, and then we ended up back where we were. Similar things, new things. And quite frankly, the straw that broke the camel's back was something extremely simple. Me reaching out to say thank you and asking the potential clients that we were working with, or partners, they weren't even clients, but the partners, if they needed any assistance, reach out and let me know. That's something that simple that just like blew up. And I determined at that point in time that, my worth was much greater than this, and that this was not something I had to stand for. Now, here's the thing. It sounds so nice and grand. You're like, oh, Patricia, that was so great. You really stood up for yourself, and you've always been a great advocate, whatever. When I tell you that that is extremely the simplified version, there was a lot of angst in there. There was a lot of self-doubt that was created, and just lots of problems that literally had me questioning. At that point in time in my career, I was I don't know, 20 plus years in, had me questioning what it was I was doing and whether I was qualified to be doing what I was doing. Absolutely ridiculous, right? That was never the real issue. There was lots of other things going on that played into it, and that became issues about control and issues about maybe there, I don't know, there was some insecurity. But the reality was that subjecting yourself to situations where you are being underutilized and let's say managed and micromanaged and controlled in a way that's counter to your values and your expertise, it comes down to the choices that you decide to make in that moment. And the choices that you make in that moment is not just about what's going on out there externally, but it's about what's going on in here internally. All about the mindset. All about the mindset. And you're like, oh gosh, here we go. We're coming back to this. Yes, we are. You guys know I love a good mindset conversation. I do not consider myself a mindset coach. There are some fabulous people who focus in on that. But in the context of shifting and making changes and growing as a professional, you cannot bypass the mindset work, okay? How you do the internal reflection work, how you address the choices that you're making and own them for what they are, okay? And this is so important because we can become extremely resentful of all the things that are going on out there, when in reality, part of the problem is we have a lot of internal conflict about what it is we're doing and how we're being perceived, perhaps, or what's next. And so regardless of what's going on externally, it is extremely important to do the internal work, to step back, like I always say, take a deep breath and do some thought, do some thoughts and thinking about what is really going on here. Okay? What is going on? And we have to move forward. I love that this person says that I can't see who it is, that we can't let the past hold us back. Yes, yes, yes. We cannot. This is so important to know that we have to be able to move forward and not let the past hold us back. But when we are getting all trapped in our heads, that's exactly what will happen. That is exactly what will happen. We will let these things, these situations get the best of us. And then we are like playing all of these what ifs. I'm not good enough. This is not working. It must be me, right? It's always like, it must be me. And recognizing we have to put it into that spiral at some point in time and say enough is enough. And while you may not be able to address the issue that's coming at you externally right up front, because it can be addressed, we'll talk about that. But the reason why it can be addressed is by the work that you decide to do internally, by acknowledging the choices that you have and that you that are at your beck and call, right? The bottom line is there are choices that can be made, but that is a decision that you have to make. Whether you stick with something a little bit longer and put up with it, like that's a choice. We may feel trapped by, if it's, maybe it's the money, maybe it's the situation or whatever, but ultimately, it's our own choice. And for me, for example, in that moment, the choice was, it doesn't matter how much money this is paying or whatever, like this is now completely out of alignment with who I am, what I believe, and how I believe people should be treated. And I walked away cold. And that takes courage. This is not me singing my own song. Like, it takes courage for anyone to do that in the midst of a difficult situation. But this, again, is where we have to strengthen our mindset to be open and willing to it. Because what I have written down right here is, I don't care how fantastic a situation is, what's your exit plan? And that may sound a little cynical. It may sound a little like paranoid, but guess what? It's not a bad thing to have a tiny bit of cynicism and a little bit of paranoia. Because the truth of the matter is, as we have learned in the last couple of years with everything that's been going on in the world, is that things can change on a dime. All right. And when things change on a dime, like our whole worlds can just literally just be like turned upside down. So it's not about lingering on what could go wrong, but hey, if this doesn't work out, what might be next for me? And just having that thought, having written down a couple of options, lets you know and reminds you you have options. You always have options. And knowing that is extremely empowering. Even if you don't have to act on them, knowing that you have them, that you have options, is extremely empowering. Build your confidence and let you know that no matter what comes or could come, that you have what it takes to move forward to the next thing. All right. So make sure you breathe, get out of your own head, get some sleep. These are all simplistic things, but they are so important in the midst of all of these types of transitions and mental, gymnastics that you're doing with yourself. And don't forget to have some conversations, not with people who are just going to say, oh my God, I can't believe they did that to you. No, but having real substantive conversations with people who you trust. Maybe there's an accountability partner. Maybe you do have a coach or a mentor that you can go to, or perhaps even a close friend, but who's objective enough to push back and to question you. It is extremely important to have those as potential resources. A couple of other resources that I noted from my previous notes that I love, because they were so great even then, and I need to go back and read them. It's been a minute. One, the first book is The Gifts of Imperfection. This is an oldie but goodie by Brene Brown. Small, thin book, very powerful. Highly recommended. The second one is The Art of War by Steven Pressfield. And I highly recommend both of those. Add them to your reading list. Take some time, add it to your list for the summer, and just take that time to do that internal work. Both of those books will help with that. And help you maybe see some situations you hadn't seen before, to ask some questions, to, challenge your way of thinking. And so you're going back, you're like, what in the world does all this have to do with my advanced degree and whether it matters or not? It has everything, because ultimately it's not just about the degree. It's not just about the experience. It's about who you are, who you believe you are, and your mindset about that as it approaches, right? Because the more negative things that we own or think, then the more we start to devalue ourselves. And that's not what we want, right? If you spent the time to get the degree, fantastic, congratulations. And we'll talk next time about some strategies to shift and make sure that you can get the most out of that. If you have an advanced degree of any kind, we'll talk about the strategies about how do you maybe shift, look at things in a different way. Have you considered all your possibilities, or maybe making some shifts so that you can do the things that you want to do with the experience, with the knowledge that you have. Okay. Because ultimately, that's really what your goal is. You want to be able to share and engage at a level that provides you with some satisfaction, right? Some fulfillment, as well as provide some impact to the world in which you work, and the community in which you may give, and the projects that you may be working on. All right. So, the degree matters, but not for the reason that you think. It matters because it's something you invested in yourself on, and you should not underestimate that ever. Because even if everyone knows I have a law degree and I do not, quote, actively practice law, my law license is active. I can go handle cases any day of the week that I want, but it's not my primary thing to do. My primary thing to do has shifted into providing executive advising, to do some executive coaching, and to help people get to the next level of where they want to be in their careers, in their organizations, helping their people to be the best that they can be. All right. But guess what? I know that my law degree completely helps me in approaching how I approach. It adds to the uniqueness of who I am and how I deliver my services and how I approach things. So don't undervalue yourself. You have the value. We'll talk more about that worth and how you can utilize that in your future strategies and how you approach it. But don't let someone tell you that piece of paper doesn't matter anymore, because it's not true. If you're a brand new graduate, guess what? It still matters, right? The experiences you have, the work experiences you have matter. It's all about how you approach it and how you perceive it. So when you get twisted up and you're thinking, this doesn't matter, I don't know why I did this, it's a waste of time, I want you to go sit back, take some time, get a piece of paper, get a journal, and write down why you even pursued that level of education to begin with. What did you learn from it? From the experiences that you're working now, even if it's not yet in the field and where you want to be, what are you learning in the process? Because all of that adds to your experience and adds to the value that you bring to the people that you work with and that you work for. Okay, there we are. I told you this is going to be rich, and I'm going to try and make sure that we get through all of the content over the next coming weeks. But, hit me up in the comments, hit me up in the DM. Let me know if you have any questions, issues that you might want to have addressed. Once again, if you caught this on the tail end, go back through. But we're working on a new series. It's a revived series, is in actuality, and we're updating it to today. And we're focusing on degrees and experience and what that matters. So today we're working through the mindset pieces of it. Next week, we'll talk about actual strategies and tips that you can utilize in your career search, growth, whatever, to make sure that things are that you bring value, that value that you want to, utilizing your experience and your education. We will then also next work on the money, talking about how to negotiate your value when it comes to getting paid, when it comes to the resources that you access, and those things that we lay on the table. A lot of times people lay things on a table thinking that the dollar is all that matters. And what we've learned in the last couple of years is that it's not always just about the actual dollars that you make. There's so many other things and other benefits and resources that can play into you being fully a full person when it comes to how you approach and how you live and work. And then lastly, we'll talk about those tough transitions, layoffs, firings, retirements. Retirements can be tough too because you still got to figure out what you're going to do next. And so that will bring us up on the tail end. So this will be a full time. We will make sure we're going to be covering these on the Monday coffee chats. So if you're going to want to keep up, it's on the Mondays. You don't have to worry about Monday and Wednesday every week, because on Wednesdays, we're going to bring back over the course of the summer some of our old content from the vault, including many of the conversations, the expert conversations we've had with colleagues over the last 6 months. So I will be resharing those with you over the summer on Wednesdays. And that's how we're going to work our summer schedule. Okay. If you have any questions, you want to know more information about any of the things that are going on, please do not hesitate to reach out. And I look forward to having a conversation. Have a fantastic week, everyone. Bye-bye.